Hello and welcome to another how to play video by Peaky Boardgamer. My name is Uproarious and in today's video I will teach you how to play the Grand Carnival designed by Cramer. This great polyomino game is for 1 to 4 players, so grab your popcorn and let's start. It is the summer of 1937. A carnival train arrives in the rail yard of Littleton town and will stay for a week. The players in the game have 7 days to construct the best carnival in town, create the biggest attractions and draw the largest crowds. On their turn, players choose one of 3 different options. Either pick a foundation tile from the train and place it on their board, or build an attraction placed on foundation tiles already placed, or move guests within their carnival to visit the attractions and buy tickets. Players can also satisfy objectives on cards to gain ongoing bonuses. After the end of the 7th day, players gain victory points in many different categories. A few of them is the type of attractions, the number of guests and the tickets sold. The player with the most victory points will win in the Grand Carnival. Begin setup by placing the rail yard board in the middle of the table and then place the round marker on the Sunday space of the round track. Then shuffle all foundation tiles and create 2 equal stacks, placing them facing downwards as indicated right beneath the spaces. Then reveal 4 foundation tiles, placing them in the next 4 wagons. Then, after you shuffle the trick of the trade cards, randomly reveal 3 cards and place them above the rail yard board facing upwards. Only 3 such cards are used in each game. Place all remaining trick of the trade cards back in the box. Right next to the board, create a supply of guest pawns as well as a supply of carnival barker pawns. The number of carnival barker pawns depends on the number of players in the game. Use all 8 of them in a 4 players game, 6 of them in a 3 players game, or only 5 if this is a 2 players game. In this video, I will set up the game for 2 players. Create another supply with the ticket tokens. Next, take the attraction tiles and separate them according to their size, which is also indicated by a number on the tile. Again, depending on the player count, you will use only a specific number of tiles from each specific size. You will need 8 tiles of each size if this is a 4 players game, 6 tiles if this is a 3 players game, and only 5 tiles in a 2 players game. In the size of 3, 4 and 5 tiles, there are tiles of multiple shapes. Use any random way to pick the tiles you need for your game. Illustrations on these tiles is irrelevant. Only size and shapes matter. Remaining tiles will not be used and return in the box. Players choose one of the colors and take the corresponding personal board and the 8 action pawns corresponding to that color. Players will start the game with only 5 action pawns as available, and they will keep the other 3 separated for later use. Each player then takes 2 guest pawns from the supply and place them on the 2 entry areas on their board. Randomly select a first player who will take that pawn and will also take the first turn in the game. The game is now ready to start. This is the point I'm asking you to subscribe to this channel if you like our videos and want to support the effort behind them. You can also hit that bell button so you get notified of any of our future videos. The game consists of 7 rounds tracked by this marker here. On every round, players alternate turns starting with the first player and continuing clockwise. On their turn, players perform one action which always involves placing one of their action pawns onto any unoccupied numbered space. The number on the selected space does not correspond to an action, it actually corresponds to the power of the selected action. The higher the number, the more powerful the action. After determining the power, the player can select one of 3 different actions. Option 1 is to take a foundation tile from the board and place it on their personal board. Option 2 is take an attraction tile and place it on their board as well. The third action is to move one guest within their fairground. After performing the selected action, a player always checks if they have satisfied any goal on the tricks of the trade cards. Then it's the next player's turn to perform one action. After all players have taken 5 turns, the round is over. At the end of each round, players reset their workers, the round marker is forwarded to the next space, and the first player token is passed to the next clockwise player. After the end of the 7th round, we proceed with scoring, and we will see that later on. Now let's dive into some of the details of the 3 actions we just explained. With the place a foundation action, the player takes one of the foundation tiles from a space up to the number of the power. So if my action's power is 4, I could take either a face-down tile or one of these 3 face-up tiles. If you select a face-up tile, you immediately replenish the empty space with a face-down tile from any of the stacks, and then you place the tile on your board. If, however, a face-down tile is selected, the player may choose to discard all face-up tiles into a face-up discard pile, and then players replenish the empty spaces using tiles from any or even both of the face-down stacks. Players may never examine the tiles in the discard pile. As soon as one face-down stack is depleted, the discard pile is shuffled and creates a new face-down stack. The player's board consists of a grid of squares that can take only foundation tiles. After taking one foundation tile, you can place it onto any one such square on your board which is empty. Also, you cannot exceed the boundaries and you cannot overlap other tiles. Foundation tiles consist of 4 small squares which depict various combinations of construction squares or pathway squares. With the Build an Attraction action, the player selects one tile from the supply and builds it within their fairground. The selected tile must be of a size up to the power of the action. So with a power of 3, I could select a 1, a 2 or a 3 size tile. Let's say I select this one. When placing the attraction, you can rotate or even flip the tile as you wish, but has to be placed entirely on construction squares of your foundation tiles. Of course, as you can see, the new attraction can also be adjacent to other attractions. With the 3rd action, the player can move one of their guests spaces equal to the power of the action +1 for every carnival barker in the fairground. So in this example, I can move one of my guests up to 4 squares, moving to orthogonally adjacent squares. You cannot move diagonally. Guests move entirely on pathway squares, and other guests or carnival barkers block the selected guest's movement. Guests enter the fairground from these 2 entry areas and exit it by moving to the big top. If that was the situation before moving, I could only select one of these 2 guests to move, as this guest has no access to the fairground yet. Let's say I choose to move this guest. I could do a first move here, then a second here, then maybe a 3rd one here, or even step back and move here again with my 4th move. So you can spend your moves going back and forth, or even end your movement in the same square where you started. However, you must make use of at least one movement point. After the guest finishes moving, if it is located orthogonally adjacent to any attraction, the player takes tickets from the supply and places one ticket to each adjacent attraction. Now there is only one. If that were the case, however, the player would also place another ticket onto that attraction. Each attraction can hold a number of tickets equal to its size. So if in the future another or even the same guest ends movement in that square, only one ticket will be placed here, as this one is already full. Very important, if both the entry areas are empty, after you finish moving and adding tickets, you take 2 new guests from the supply, if there are any, and replenish the entry areas. Then you also take a carnival barker from the supply, again if there is one available, and you place it onto any pathway square. Barkers will never be moved again after placement, so be careful where you place them. Finally, after a guest moves to the big top, it is considered to be out of your fairground. It is not adjacent to any attractions and will add no tickets. It will remain there until the end of the game and it will worth victory points. After performing their main action, players also check if they have accomplished a goal depicted on the tricks of the trade cards. These goals are shown above this dotted line. I will not explain all cards, but this one says have 5 tickets on your attractions in total. This one says have an attraction with 3 tickets. And this goal here is to have a guest finish movement adjacent to 3 attractions. So if you have satisfied any of these on your last turn, you take one of your separated action pawns and place it on the card. This pawn serves as an indicator that you have activated the card and that you can start using the ongoing effect depicted below the dotted line. The bonus here is that the blue player can now place tickets in attractions even if the moving guest ends movement in squares which are diagonally adjacent to these attractions. Very important, after one player activates a card, all other players must accomplish that card's goal on their next turn. If they don't manage to do so, they will be excluded from accomplishing this card. This player's next turn can be on the next round as well. It is simply the next time that player takes a turn, regardless the round. You can find clarifications for all Trick of the Trade cards in the game within 2 pages of the rulebook. When it comes to scoring, players score victory points in many categories indicated on the scoring pad as well as on your board. At first, you should be aware that any attraction with no ticket is excluded from scoring. First, you score victory points if you have 3 or more attractions for each size. The bigger the set, the more victory points you gain. This player has a set of 3 size 1 attractions and gains 3 victory points, and another set of 4 size 4 attractions and gains another 18 points. The next category is that you gain 22 victory points if you have managed to have attractions with tickets of all different 5 sizes. Unfortunately, the player doesn't have a size 5 attraction, so gains 0 victory points. Then you gain victory points for guests in the big top according to their number and as indicated in this table. With 3 guests in the big top, the player gains 10 victory points. Then you gain a fixed amount of 12 victory points if you have managed to have at least 15 tickets on all your attractions. That player has 17 and gains 12 victory points. Then you gain 3 victory points for each carnival barker on your fairground. The player gains 6 victory points. Finally, you get a penalty of -1 point for every visible mallet on your fairground. That player loses 2 victory points. The player with the most victory points wins the game. In case of a tie, the player who has accomplished the most Trick of the Trade cards wins the tie. If the tie still exists, then the second tiebreaker are the most tickets in the fairground. Finally, if you still have a tie, then all tied players share their victory. And that was the video for today. I hope you liked it. If you like our videos, please subscribe to this channel. Until next time, have fun and play more board games.